Good afternoon, members. Welcome to this multi-locational meeting of the Monmouthshire and Brecon Canal Crumlin Working Group, being held in the Chamber, Penalta House, and via Microsoft Teams on Thursday, the 5th of February 2026. This meeting will be live streamed and recorded and made available to view via the Council's website, except for discussions involving confidential or exempt items. Therefore, the images, audio of those individuals present and or speaking will be publicly available to all via the recording on the Council's website. If members lose connection during the meeting, please make every attempt to reconnect. However, the meeting will continue as long as it remains quorate. Committee services staff are available and will be able to assist you to reconnect if necessary. I wish also to remind everyone that the chair has discretion to terminate or suspend the webcast if, in their opinion, continuing to do so would prejudice the proceedings or that continued webcasting might infringe the rights of any individual. The chair also has the right to remove persons from the meeting if necessary. Members attending remotely, please leave your cameras on, but mute your microphones. Members attending physically, please use the chamber microphones when you are called on to speak. Members and officers should also activate their microphone after I've invited them to speak on an item. Today we will be using hands up for voting on agenda items. Please use the hands up function on Teams, and if you are attending remotely, raise your hand if you are in the chamber. Before we move to the agenda, I'd like to call for a minute's silence for the passing of Mr. Richard Wysam, who's the former chair of the Crumlin Canal Association. So you're going to time that? Okay. Okay, thank you, members. Okay, firstly, to receive apologies for absence. So far, I've got Councillor Nigel George, Councillor Simmons, and Councillor Whitcomb. Does anybody know of any others? No. And we are quorate. Sorry, Kerry's just arrived. Okay, so declaration of interest. Councillors and officers are reminded of their personal responsibility to declare any personal and or prejudicial interests in respect of any item of business on this agenda in accordance with the Local Government Act 2000, the Council's Constitution and the Code of Conduct for both councillors and officers. Please use the hands up function to indicate if you have any such. If you have any such declarations. I'll put my own in at this moment because I was appointed to the board of the Canal and River Trust about 6 months ago. So I think that's just a personal interest. So we got no others. Okay, so we move on to item 3, and that's to approve the minutes of the Monmouthshire Brecon Canal Crumlin Working Group meeting, which was held on the 6th of February 2025. I got page 1, page 2, and page 3. If I can have a proposer and a seconder.
Move Chair, Councillor Woodland.
Thank you, Councillor Woodland. We got a seconder, please.
Second, Councillor Owen.
Thank you, Bob. Everybody's happy? I don't even need to vote, do we? No, we don't need to vote. Yeah, that's great. Okay, on to item 4, update on matters relating to the canal. So I'll hand you over to our esteemed engineer, Sarah.
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of the report is to update members of the Canal Working Group on all matters relating to the Monmouthshire and Brecon Canal Crumlin Arm. The report details the current and planned maintenance and any capital works planned for the remainder of the year. Details are provided on current funding availability, and a general statement is provided outlining any current operational issues regarding the usage and the condition of the Monmouthshire and Brecon Canal Crumlin Arm. Members of the working group are asked to note that ensuring the integrity of the canal channel and the connecting culverts, thus maintaining water flows and levels, is the priority of the council. The recommendations are that the working group note the contents of the report and the updates provided. And the reason for such is to provide members with an update of details of the current and planned maintenance and any capital works planned for the remainder of the year. So the main body of the report, the maintenance update, the canal channel. Weed cutting channel maintenance for 2026 will be scheduled for the usual months, September, October, with additional supervision from parks officers to assist in the successful management of the operation. The first cut of the season for grass maintenance is due in April 2026, continuing on to a four-weekly cycle with the final cut of the year due in October 26. So the works programme for 25-26. For the towpath, there are no planned towpath works for 25-26. However, subject to a successful funding bid to the National Lottery Heritage Fund, there will be some towpath enhancement works associated with the repairs to the leaking aqueduct planned for the next financial year. In the absence of external funding, capital will be sought to attend to this matter. For access enhancement, subject to priority and available funding, new removable cycle barriers will be replaced along the entire length of canal. Onto water control, the canal feed was turned off in November 25, which is later than usual due to the warmer weather patterns experienced into the autumn season. Water feed reinstatement is planned for March 2026. So some water level issues were reported over the past summer months, primarily concerning the supply to the Newport section. These have been addressed in published responses by Caerphilly County Borough Council. Aside from this specific concern, water levels across Caerphilly have been routinely monitored during inspections with no major issues identified. However, it is worth noting that levels are typically lower during the drier months, particularly following prolonged dry spells which have become more frequent in recent years. This seasonal variation is consistent with wider regional trends and highlights the importance of ongoing monitoring as part of routine inspections. The statutory determination date for the abstraction licence with Natural Resources Wales was 13th of May 25. They applied for an extension, revising the date to the 20th of August 25, followed by another request to extend to the 19th of December. A response was received at the end of November 25, and unfortunately, NRW raised concerns over the practicality of our proposals to lower the bed level of the Nancombe Brook by 184 millimetres through regular monitoring and excavation to meet the Q75 threshold. NRW suggests that a more suitable solution would be to include some form of passive control or weir structure upstream of the canal feed pipe set at the Q75 level. As such, during dry spells, the volume of water entering the canal will be even less than at present due to obstruction, only being permitted when flows are above that Q75 threshold. We are now tasked with revisiting the proposals that they are deemed suitable for approval with NRW. This has been communicated to Newport City Council by a member of the working group. There are no further updates regarding Dŵr Cymru, Welsh Water and the Manor Road emergency feed. Gabion installation of silt control upstream and downstream of Green Meadow Bridge has been completed and its effectiveness is being monitored. To date, the structures appear to be working well, maintaining a canal channel free of debris and obstruction. If funding becomes available, this method could also be implemented at Fernley. A contractor has been commissioned to cleanse and CCTV survey all 5 culvert breaks along the canal corridor, with completion scheduled for the end of March 26. This work is to support improved flow and maintain an up-to-date status for long-term maintenance. These locations include Darren Road, Temperance and Navigation Road, Thistle Way, Getley Avenue and Manor Road. Also within this commission is a series of bathymetric and topographic surveys of sections of the canal channel along the entire length in readiness for future relining and dredging projects. It has also been requested that all 5 breaks are topographically surveyed to support a more realistic review of the canal corridor study undertaken circa 20 years ago. The new study will be subject to available funding and appetite. So there are no planned dredging works for 25-26, and planned tree maintenance is progressing and being managed by the authorities. Arboriculturalists and reactive works to deal with tree falls is also ongoing. So on to external funding. Officers identified a new funding opportunity through the National Lottery Heritage Fund to support repairs to the leaking aqueduct. This fund specifically targets heritage assets, and we anticipate that this route would have a greater chance of success when compared to the previous application to the Welsh Government's brilliant Basics funding stream. An expression of interest was submitted in mid-September 2025. However, unfortunately, it did not progress to the full application stage. The feedback from the Heritage Fund panel highlighted several key issues. Grants exceeding 250k require a mandatory 2-stage process, development followed by delivery, which the panel felt had not been fully considered in our submission. Concerns were raised regarding the long-term sustainability of the proposal and clarity around statutory responsibility and the robustness of project costings, including what proprietary work had been undertaken prior to submitting the expression of interest. The Heritage Officer further emphasised that preliminary work is essential before submitting any future applications. This includes demonstrating public appetite through working group engagement and public consultation, as well as achieving cost certainty via actual quotations. This outcome was disappointing, as the expression of interest webpage did not allow for additional supporting information. However, considering this feedback, officers met with a resin, grout and drilling specialist contractor on site to discuss proposals for sealing of the aqueduct. After further consideration and a variation on the original sealing product proposed, we were able to ascertain a cost per square metre that reduced the total ask to below the £250,000 threshold. This funding band is considered delivery only and should, in theory, be more straightforward than the previous application. As the original expression of interest was unsuccessful, we must wait 3 months before reapplying. This will allow time to consider public backing and engagement. The revised grant application amount for sealing the aqueduct will be 245.76k with a 60k match funding from our canal capital budget, representing a commitment for the next financial year. The desirable works to restore the buried lock and create a wider space at the head of the canal may also be considered under the National Lottery Heritage Fund. However, this is likely to be scheduled for a future funding year. Feedback from members has already been sought, and officers extend our thanks for their input. For Channel Lake Repair, Phase 5 relining works remains a priority for the Council, subject to available capital funding, and there have been no new emergency works to report. However, the minor landslip at Salm Place, which occurred following Storm Bert, continues to be monitored. To date, no significant changes have been observed. Unfortunately, the Harris fencing installed to protect the area immediately behind the slip has become a recurring maintenance issue due to ongoing unauthorised realignment and/or vandalism. This presents a safety concern and remains a liability for the team, requiring regular attention and associated costs to ensure public protection and site integrity. For the capital funding, the allocation for 25-26 is 200k. Up to 50k of this funding is committed and will support design works for future relining works. The further intention is for grant funding to deliver the aqueduct sealing or capital to potentially act as the primary funding source of the aqueduct works in 26-27, should external funding not be secured. Should external funding be secured, it is anticipated that the capital could be allocated to alternate canal lining commitments in 26-27 that are being designed in year. The order of works will be subject to approved capital allocation. The revenue budget allocation for 25-26 was confirmed as 97.1k, and the revenue budget is allocated to miscellaneous maintenance activities, including grass cutting, tree maintenance, culvert maintenance and weed removal. There are no further updates in the respect of boats, and our conclusion is a full programme of works for the coming years being developed, subject to considerations related to the aqueduct and subject to available funding from the capital and revenue budgets, together with potential external funding to achieve objectives. It should be noted, however, that reactive and emergency works will be undertaken and take precedence over any planned works with respect to time and budget. CCPC's 5-year canal management plan has been updated and records any works undertaken and any priority changes, and copies will be forwarded for consultation as required. There have been no assumptions have been made regarding the information contained in the report, and the report is for information only. The financial implications, the budget details are outlined in section 5.3 and include a capital budget of 200k and a confirmed revenue budget of 97.1k, of which 181.1k and 78.2k remain respectively. Up to 50k of the 25-26 capital budget will be utilised for advanced design works associated with future relining projects identified in the 5-year capital programme, namely Phase 5 and the section from Getley Avenue to Thistle Way, together with smaller supplementary relining projects subject to available time and resource to the end of the financial year. Subject to budget availability, officers will also be reviewing designs for the opening up of the head of the canal and restoration of the buried lock. All references to planned works for 26-27 are indicative only and remain subject to the Council's budget setting process. The draft budget report for 26-27 is currently out for consultation, and any allocations mentioned will require formal approval before they can be confirmed. The revenue budget is anticipated to be fully exhausted by the end of 25-26, subject to the completion of all grass cutting, de-weeding, culvert cleansing, inclusive of the CCTV and bathymetric and topographic surveys. There are no personal implications, and the consultation as below is for information only. There are no requirements in this respect under statutory power and for information only. The consultees then are listed on the final page 11. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Sarah. Any councillors online got any questions for Sarah, please? No hands up. Well, I'm going to say something. I'm going to say thank you to Sarah for... sorry, I got Bob. Bob Owen, Councillor Bob Owen.
Snap, Chris. I was just going to say the same. We seem to have had a good year. And Sarah is very good with her updates, you know, when things are going on, to allowing us to pass on to residents, etc. So, yeah, it was a thank you from me.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you, Councillor.
Kerry?
There's a question in the chat from Councillor Wright.
On the chat.
No, it's not working.
Councillor Wright says, what are the plans for the Sand Place landslip? Sorry, the microphone's not working.
Thanks, Councillor Wright. We, following Stormbert, teams were allocated a budget line that we could do remediation works from damage caused by Stormbert, and that was in there. We were looking at soil nailing as an option, put an indicative cost in, but unfortunately the Welsh Government and the officers there deemed that the landslip was not as a consequence, or they deemed it as maintenance rather than a consequence of Stormbert, which is quite frustrating because it actually happened shortly following that. So at the moment, like I say, we've been monitoring it and it's not getting any worse, but unfortunately there is like halfway down the slip there is a rocky outcrop. So in terms of how we would pack material above that remains to be seen. So soil nailing is usually an option we would do to stabilise a slip or a steep piece of an embankment, but it would need formal design. But that was our first thoughts in terms of soil nailing, which is just like you might have seen it when you've been travelling down to West Wales. You can see it's like a bolt and a pin, and there's nets. So that's something like that. But in terms of replacing material on what has slipped, like I say, remains to be seen, because there is a vertical rocky outcrop just down, so there's nothing really that could retain that material. So it won't be an easy one to sort, but thankfully it's not getting any worse at the moment. But it is in the wider section of the canal from the Darren to Temperance in the passing place. Thank you.
Councillor Wright has asked anything from the new lottery perhaps for funding.
I don't believe so, because this one, or the one we've been exploring, is specifically targets heritage. So that's where it fits quite nicely in with the aqueduct being a Grade 2 listed structure. So there may well be opportunities for funding to make repairs to that. But I'm not aware of any at the moment. But our regen colleagues, sorry, my laptop's not on, so I think they might be in the call. But in any case, I can pass that on and ask them to explore any opportunities. Or, if it does start to get worse, we'd have to allocate some of our revenue or find capital to make repairs. But as I say, thankfully, it's not getting any worse at the moment. Thanks.
Sorry, Councillor Wright, I'm just reading a question. No, when will the latest down trees be removed at Pontywayn End? Seems like they came down just after the previous duck stands were removed. Many thanks to Sarah for the answers.
Thank you, no problem. I'm aware of the ones, there's 3, they've been reported, so that's sitting with Parks, and I'll chase that up and share it with the group, but it has been reported, there's 3 at the Halls Road area, isn't it? Thank you.
Right, I'll have a word with a cabinet member on that. Thank you, Sarah. So no other questions? Yes, we have. We got Cariad.
Hi, it was just to say on the point that Sarah just said about regeneration and funding, that we are always looking for further opportunities for funding as a team. So we will keep everyone updated if we find anything that's suitable. Like Sarah said, I don't think that this one would kind of fit with the lottery funding because it's heritage, but yeah, we can definitely keep you updated.
Okay, thanks, Cariad. One for you then off me. With regards funding, obviously we've got representatives. I know they're not at this meeting with the Monmouthshire and Brecon Abergvenny Canals Trust. They're certainly a good partner to be involved with any funding, because they can bring the charity side to it, and obviously they've been part of getting big grants in the past. So I would think it'd be great to involve them in any bids, especially to lottery and that, because the more people that are involved, the better. Especially with the aqueduct, obviously it's an engineering structure, but it's also important access. If that fell down, there'd be no access to the canal. So access is a big thing to use for funding, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. I don't know if I could get some contact details from somebody to just keep them involved in the process. And yeah, I can certainly pass it to the wider regeneration team as well, just so we've got those details on file in case of any other funding opportunities. That would be really good to have.
Yeah, I'll email them to you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, people... I can't see any other hands up. So I just want to say something. Thank you, Sarah and Cariad, because I'm really proud of what we're doing with the canal in Caerphilly. 25 years ago, it'll be 25 years ago in October this year, that I organised a boat rally in Pontywayn as a 25-year-old, no, 30-year-old, when I was involved with the Monmouthshire and Brecon Canal Trust, and 20 boats came up from all over the country and cruised the canal. They stopped on their boats. They used the slipway that we built with in partnership with Caerphilly County Borough Council, and that slipway is still there, and it'd just be great to see something like that and another attraction for our canal. The reason I mentioned about Richard Weissum at the beginning, because I know he was heavily involved with the late councillor Stan Jenkins, who was a good friend of mine many years ago. We lost him far too early, and Stan was instrumental in getting a trip boat onto the canal, which Denver that will probably remember. And it would be great to see that boat back up and running, and the project you've got in mind for the aqueduct will be absolutely fantastic. So no, but thank you, Sarah, and your colleagues for everything you do. I think we're doing a great job. So thank you very much. Item 5, there's nobody here from the Mon and Brec, is there? The chair, Mr. Collier, he's not here. So okay, so anybody else wants to say before I do the conclusion? No. Okay, so I'd like to thank everyone for attending this meeting of the Canal Group. I declare the meeting closed and the webcast will be stopped. Members attending in Penalta House, can I ask you to remain seated? All of you, they're all in front of me here. Members attending, ask you to remain seated until the webcast has ended, and the members attending remotely, you may now hang up